When in the course of gaming events, it becomes apparent for at least one gamer that the bonds of gaming pleasure have been broken, and to assume among the powers of development the separate and equal station to which the laws of gameplay and gaming tradition entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of gamer kind requires that they should declare what pisses them the fuck off. Here to do that, I'm Not Much 23,
And I'm Chaos Assassin.
and this is Gamer Experience.
And today we have a guest with us, the Amethyst Dragon.
That is correct.
I'm sorry, I'm too tired today to give a full thing. Not much. Do you think you could take over for that?
Yeah. This month, it's another episode of Gaming Pet Peeves. All about our pet peeves, gripes, complaints, and things that just generally piss us off about gaming. So, Amethyst Dragon, one thing we like to ask all our guests is, what experience do you have with gaming?
I have some. Let's see. I'm a casual video gamer, really casual. I take nothing serious there. Yeah, there's a little Xbox, a little PC gaming over the years. That's about it. But then there's the role playing games where I play Dungeons and Dragons a lot, and I have been for more than 30 years.
Oh
Ooh.
shit! So another veteran, experienced D&D gamer.
Yeah, I got started on that one back in 7th grade, 35 years ago, when my best friend got gifted some first edition AD&D books and some dice.
And then
He ran
that
the game.
started the rabbit hole.
Yeah, he ran the game. I was the player. Neither of us knew what we were doing, but it had swords, it had magic, it had dragons, and I was hooked.
Impressive. I think that's how most people start. It's like, oh, what's this? Swords, magic, dragons, monsters, fae? Yeah, let's try it out. 10 years later, where's my good set of dice? What do you mean your good set of dice? You have an entire room full of dice. Oh no, those are all the crappy dice. I need my good set, bag of dice. Which one?
It's reasonable for me. I have a small treasure chest that I just recently filled to the top.
Nice. What's its dimensions?
It's about 6 inches long and 4 inches deep and about 3.5 inches high.
So it really is a small treasure chest.
Yeah.
Probably what, 4 or 5 sets tops?
Oh no, like somewhere between 15 and 20.
Oh wow.
It's gone for a minute, but I limit myself to like one set of dice a year, or sometimes one set of dice every several years. I generally buy them when I buy a set when I go to a gaming convention.
That is
That's
some
fair.
mad. Yeah, that's some mad restraint, man.
Well, I like to be able to use the dice that I buy, so if I had too many, there'd be sets that I never use.
I'm still trying to find my good set. Or rather, which set is good.
No, my issue is I because I play so many other games that use dice, my dice and some friends' dice got mixed up, so we have to actually go through and sort all of our dice out because I'm missing about a third of my dice.
Well, that's not good.
No, I think
Pet
that'd be an interesting
Pet peeve, missing dice.
The interesting pet peeve, since we're supposed to be doing gaming pet peeves.
Yes.
Losing dice. You buy a set of dice, a set of 7, I forget what they're called, and like the D6 goes missing. Like, how infuriating actually is that? I bought a set and I'm missing the D8, and just like where? And it's a gorgeous set of dice, but I can't find the D8 that goes with it.
I have a couple of my older sets that over the years I've had children, and so like one set will be missing 1 dice, another set will be missing 2, and then the rest of my sets are all complete.
Yeah,
I
it's more of an annoyance with that.
lump all my dice together mainly by type, so
In my little treasure chest, they're all mixed up because I tend to collect ones that look like gemstones. So a lot of transparent ones or like iridescent ones.
Well, given your name, I could see why.
Yeah. Well, the name I've had for 28 years now.
Oh wow! What's the origins on it?
Back in January of '96, I was creating my first website on a service called GeoCities. You could get free web pages.
I was about to ask if it was on GeoCities. I remember that.
It was GeoCities, yeah. look at other people's code to figure out what they did. So I needed a title for it. I'm like, well, I like D&D stuff, so I like dragons. So let's do something dragon related. So I'll do like a dragon's lair. Okay, but what kind of dragon? I'm like, well, you know what? My favorite color is that deep, super dark purple you get in the middle of like a really big amethyst geode.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with the Amethyst Dragon, and I've just kept using it for everything online.
Yeah, not bad.
So, and it lends
has
itself
it
now because I
evolved at
make stuff
all?
for D&D. What is that?
Has it evolved at all over the years?
It hasn't really, although there's been different iterations depending on the character limitations for usernames.
Okay.
Like if you can't use spaces, then I don't have spaces. If you can't use capitals, then it doesn't have capital letters. If there's like 16 character limit, then I leave off the at the front.
Impressive.
Yeah,
I think that's
except
something that happens with most gamers is the evolution and everything of their gamer tags.
yeah, it
Don't
hasn't
I-
like it's just been based on limitations is what I have had to deal
No,
with.
it's not exactly as much of a pet peeve as more of an annoyance, which are most pet peeves. But when you have your gamer tag and you go and try a new game and try to type it in your gamer tag, and
It's already
your gamer
taken.
tag has been taken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The amount of times I've had any of the iterations of my gamer tag, which always have chaos in it, the amount of times that they've been taken, just like I misspell it on purpose and it's taken. Damn.
Yep. That is a problem with video games, especially online ones.
Yeah. Unless you have something like really unique, it's not. It's gonna get taken almost instantly. And what's funny is the fact of animes have influenced gamer tags because the amount of people that I see on certain games running as their names being Kirito, it's insane on how many people I've seen with it as of late.
Yeah. Sometimes I go with I don't use the Amethyst Dragon, but that's just because it was already or it wouldn't fit the character limit, and I'm like, you know what? This is for a dumb reason. Like I signed up for a Blizzard account at one point just to like get the little credits for watching the Overwatch competitive stuff. And so I put in a name that was different from the Amethyst Dragon. Well, they did a merging thing, so that's now my username on Overwatch when I play.
Ooh,
So when I play Overwatch and people see me on screen, I'm that guy.
that's your name, that guy.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Careful, that guy's coming after you. What guy? That guy.
Yeah. Oh, that guy got play of the game. Okay.
Almost like The Who. Like, who plays that song? The Who? That's why I'm asking.
I used to have
We're
a
not,
cat
we're
named...
not doing a who's on first thing right now.
Well, I did have a cat when I was a teenager named What?
Did he play second base?
No. But, you know, when people say, what's your cat's name? I'd say, yeah, you're right. You know what? Yeah, he's my cat.
That's awesome.
You really
Yeah, so-
did do a real life kind of thing with who's on first.
Yeah, and then we had another cat that we actually named Who.
That's just mean,
But
but I love it.
Who's
yeah,
that? No, that's what? What? Exactly. So
Yeah.
who's what? No?
And then eventually it's like, you know what? I said, I used to, and then he ran away. get even more confused.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
Oh.
can we not do that? Who's on first, please?
yeah, this is supposed to be about pet peeves.
Oh, right. I mean,
Well,
he
I mean,
was a
we are
pet.
talking about pets, just not the peeves part.
Well, I
True.
do have a pet peeve that I remembered now.
All right, what you got?
The Daisy Cruiser. Because a cruiser is a naval vessel of no more than 10,000 displacement tons and guns no bigger than 8 inches. What's called the Daisy Cruiser is a cruise liner. I'm pretty damn sure this place is a lot more than 10,000 tons, and I don't see any guns on it.
That's fair. One of the ones I've been running into lately are bugs that have been part of updates and they just keep happening, and it's causing some of the games I've been playing lately almost to be unplayable, and just getting a little bit of an annoyance. For instance, I've been playing Warframe, and one of the bugs I've been having is if I'm meleeing and then I get knocked down, I'm now stuck in melee. I could set the controller down and I'm just sitting there swinging my sword, not having to touch anything, which sucks because you need to be able to swap from guns to melee, and I'm stuck in melee.
That
The only way to
isn't.
get out of it is to get downed.
That is an annoying bug.
Yeah. Ugh.
One of the other ones we ran into basically said, oh, you want to play with any sort of anything but movement? No, you get movement. You couldn't jump. I couldn't attack. I couldn't swap. Nothing. All I could do is sit there and run around. Which, when you're in a hole that you kind of need to be able to kind of jump to get out of, makes it a little difficult.
So when an update that's supposed to fix bugs instead causes more,
Yeah.
I can see how that could piss you off.
It's just one of the things of why has this not been fixed? But apparently it's a common one, but they don't know the cause of it from the sounds of it just yet.
Probably because the code is slapped together and held up with duct tape, paper clips, zip ties, and
It's more of they're not
Faith.
exactly sure what part of the code is actually causing the issue to actually be there. They're not sure what the interference is that's causing it to happen.
Yeah, that's just a frustrating thing. I remember part of my experience with role playing and computer stuff is there was a game called Neverwinter Nights. Came out in 2002, and it's Dungeons and Dragons on the computer. But I taught myself to code for that game because the game had a built-in coding engine that you could have it do stuff. And the frustrating thing is when you make a whole bunch of stuff and then you couldn't find what exactly was causing the bug. And it's just it's frustrating for the programmers, for the coders, not just players.
I've looked into alpha testing, and part of that is basically running the same game. And not only do you have to know enough about coding to figure out, okay, these are the interfering parts, it's also one of those things of you have to be able to recreate it regularly. The thing is if you can't regularly recreate it, then there's no, yes, this is it. All we know is, as the gamers right now with the bug, is we're in melee, we're swinging, and we get knocked down. We're not knowing what's knocking us down. So if it's one of the enemies that's a specific enemy that does it, or if it's a different enemy, all we know is if we get knocked down, we're now stuck into it.
That
When you're
is
fighting
frustrating.
7 different types of enemies at once,
Yeah, it's hard to recreate it to narrow it down to the
Mhm.
cause.
I get knocked down. I keep swinging my sword. I never can switch to guns.
Yeah, it's one of those that's just like, how do we fix this? How can we report this to say, hey, this is happening? The issue is there's no option for us to say, hey, we're running into this bug. This is what we're doing to cause it to happen. Can it get looked into? Whereas in most MMOs, there's a thing that you can say, hey, I'm having this happen. This is what I do to recreate it. They don't have that in Warframe.
You could use OBS to record your gameplay, and when it happens, you can send that to the developers.
This is DE. They really don't care. What are some other pet peeves?
Developers that don't care?
Well, that's kind of a given with it. I mean, that's like saying, Wizard cares about its players.
Yeah.
Sure.
They care about the money. They don't really care about their gamers as much. There's a few out there that they do care, but all in all, they really don't. Most companies don't care about the consumers because it's, regardless, we're still going to buy their product regardless of how buggy it is.
Yeah, that's one thing I miss about the old BioWare, because they made Neverwinter Nights and a bunch of other stuff, and then they got bought by EA.
Oh, where now if you want the game patch, you have to microtransaction?
A lot of that stuff, and they still work on some stuff. There's still some decent people at BioWare, but they have to work under EA.
Yeah.
and their limitations.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I don't play a lot of EA games.
I'm surprised EA hadn't killed BioWare yet.
Yeah, I don't know much about it anymore because I, stopped paying attention, really. I used to play their Star Wars online game too, the Old Republic. I know
I
that
used
was
to
a
play Old
BioWare.
Republic.
So I've still got it installed. I haven't uninstalled it yet, but I probably haven't played it in 2 years.
Last time I played Old Republic, they had just recently changed some of the stats, so you could no longer get high crit and high crit efficiency. Part of the reason they had to get rid of that, I think, has to do with the server I was on. I discovered a build that, like, one of the top healers on that server, he was playing on one of his alt accounts, saw my build for my healer and asked me what I was doing. I was keeping on par, being 10 levels lower than the rest of the people. I was keeping on par of what those healers were doing, being 10 levels lower. I had a high crit efficiency, so my heals would critically heal. And so he tried it at his like max level healer because he was the number one healer on the server, and it broke the healers to where everybody started doing it.
Ah,
It was on one of the Mandalorian builds. So after that, it just ended up breaking. Everybody was looking for crit efficiency to try to, because that's what all the DPS would make, is they'd make crit efficiency and they'd just hit really hard. Well, I did that with heals. But
So
after they got rid of that, I stopped playing.
I pretty much kind of left off on that one when I got bored with it.
Yeah. I beat the game with my
I played through all the class stories.
warrior.
Played through the class stories, played through the expansions.
My Sith warrior and my Mandalorian were my highest, and they basically nerfed my Mandalorian so far into the ground that I just didn't like him anymore. So I just stopped.
Gotcha. I actually made a list of pet peeves, but like all mine are mostly D&D related.
Now let's hear them. We not only do we do video games, we also do Pathfinder.
Yeah. And mine aren't specific to the system. It's more in general. Like I really don't like crit fumble rules or tables. Really don't like them. As a player, I really don't like them.
And dislike. I like hearing that they swung so wildly that they hit their ally.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't like that, it actually comes more into play like as your characters improve.
Yeah.
Like I played in one game, I was a fighter, and when I hit 5th level, guess who was crit fumbling more than anybody else because I got an extra attack every turn.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I'm a better fighter, and now I'm worse at fighting.
Obviously.
So I actually, this was a 5th edition game, so I actually stopped making attacks if I had disadvantage on the roll, where you roll twice and take the lower one.
Yeah.
Because it would happen more often.
Oh, that's just statistics.
Yeah, and it was just bad. And then a spellcaster making a spell attack roll. Okay, so you crit fumble and you shoot yourself, or you just totally obliterate a party member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to hit with disintegrate, but you miss so bad you actually hit the fighter next to the big bad, and the fighter fails to save, and you disintegrate your fighter.
Yeah.
What?
So I'm like, no. I mean, you roll. I mean, what do you get on a critical hit? You get a little extra damage.
Yeah.
It's with the unnatural one on say an attack roll. You know what? You've totally missed that. You have wasted your action making that attack. I think that's bad enough.
So with Pathfinder, we actually have critical hit and critical fumble decks. So your critical hit, you hit them to the point that you cut their brow. So now they're blinded because their eyebrows are bleeding.
Gotcha.
But there's also ones that
crit tables too. Yeah.
It's a deck. You actually draw the card, and depending on what you're doing, like there's one, the creature goes for a bite attack and it's a fumble. Creature bites its tongue and is now unable to speak or cast spells. Which is oh so great if it wasn't the fact that it's a bear that you're fighting and has no spells.
Yeah.
But some of that, like with some of the GMs that we have, if it doesn't really fit them, like, oh, the skeleton gets fatigued, they're immune to it. That doesn't work. Let's look for one that actually would work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and too, because anything like that is going to affect player characters more than it does NPCs
Yeah.
in the long term, because the player characters are there in the long term. But yeah, so that's one of those things where it's got to be super well thought out and balanced against like the life of a venturing character. They shouldn't get a lot worse because they get more powerful.
Yeah. I actually had a critical hit outright kill my character because it was a bite attack, and bite does piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning. And so, depending on the type of damage, depending on the crit. So we rolled a die to make it random, and I got slashing. On the card was decapitation.
Ooh.
My character got decapitated by a bone golem. It literally bit my head off.
Okay.
Yeah. Not fun. I'm still salty about that because it's just like he got a crit on me before I could crit him because I was making a 2-weapon fighter crit build that at high levels I'd be throwing 8 attacks with a 15 to 20 crit range.
Yeah. Oh,
With a
I played.
×3 critical multiplier.
Yeah, I remember third edition.
No, this was Pathfinder.
I know Pathfinder's like a branch off of the third.
3.5 technically,
Yeah.
but
So a lot of the mechanics I'm familiar with.
no.
I remember attacks, just the sheer number of them, and then the crit modifiers based on the weapon, and then the crit ranges.
Since I'm assuming you've played all of the decent editions, what of the editions of or D&D that you've played, which are your favorites?
Fifth edition is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I started out in first edition, and I still remember the first edition books that my buddy had. I bought into second edition when I was in high school, and then I ran that through high school and college, and for a year or so as an adult outside of school. And then third edition came around, and I bought the player's handbook at Gen Con that year when it came out, and then it sat on a shelf for a year. So I'm like, I've made so much stuff for this game. I'm not gonna want to update it to third edition.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then one evening, I sat down and I read the player's handbook, and I'm like, well, this is so nice. It streamlines things. You don't need as many tables. There's less switching of math going from THACO to just the D20 roll, like the straight D20 thing.
Yeah.
And it just made it so much more streamlined. And then I use that for my games, and I'm like, okay, so I'll switch all my stuff. And I use that for my games, and then Neverwinter Nights came out, and that ran third edition on third edition rules, and so I played that. And when I was and ran a server 24/7, when that died and I kind of dropped out of that game, went looking for D&D again. Fifth edition was out by then. I totally skipped fourth because I didn't have a use for it. And then I read the fifth edition stuff. I'm like, well, the streamline thing's even better.
I think my biggest issue with 5th edition, at least, is the real lack of as much versatility as I'm used to.
Yeah, there's definitely, in streamlining, it does simplify a lot of things, but it works for my gaming style and my DMing style, because it used to be I was a prepper, and I would spend like hours and hours every week for each weekly session, and then the players would like burn through what I had planned, and I'd plan all this stuff. With fifth edition now, I improv probably about 90 to 95% of every session.
That's how most of my games are. If I'm actually doing a true homebrew, I just sit there and just homebrew most of it. I have a general idea of what I want to go for and like a general direction, but for the most part, I just sit there and just on the fly.
Yeah. Well, it helps too because the players can do anything.
Yeah.
And the world reacts to them.
Yeah.
But that also means I like my players to be decisive and or not necessarily decisive, but to make decisions and to take initiative. And that's one of the other peeves I got is players who take no initiative and wait to be told what to do next.
Yeah. Most of the players in one of the last games I did were similar to that, as far as they had so many people tell them where to go that when they sat down at my table, they're like, "All right, so we have a party. What do we do now? That's up to you guys." What do you mean that's up to us? Just like, entirely up to you. I'm just the storyteller. What do y'all want to do?
Yeah, I don't run pre-made modules, adventures, just because those are kind of railroady. Because they got a story to tell and they have a path to go through. If you don't follow it, then what's the point of having all this planned out and written out in the book?
But I had to give them a little directions. Like, well, there's a local tavern that probably has bounty and missions that you guys can do. Like, let's go there. And from there, they kind of learned that, oh, we are what this story is based around.
Yeah.
Yes, there's an overall plot, but we're the ones that decide, hey, let's do this. It's funny as they were trying to be goody two shoes and stuff, but one of the players is just like, I don't want to be a goody two shoes. And then it's like, then don't. What? Like, I don't care what alignment you are. If you want to go on a mass murder spree, go for it. Just be warned, there will be repercussions to all of your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody kind of heard that and they're like, oh, we don't have to save the orphanage. We could burn it down.
Yeah. One of the things, I give players the choice to do pretty much anything they want. Although, one of my other peeves kind of like runs into a DMing rule at my table is I don't like it when group members attack or steal from other group members. There's a whole world of non-player characters you could steal from or you can fight. The party members are there to work together, even if it's like a group of evil characters. They are working together for some reason. They're being forced to, or they really believe in, their cult leader or whatever. They're still a group that's in a collaborative, mostly cooperative game. When you start stealing from the other characters, they have no reason to keep you in the group.
One of the ones that my friend that was doing a game for me, he realized I made an evil character. He was like, the party's going to kill you. He's like, they're only going to kill me if I let them know I'm evil. He looked at me, he's like, well, evil characters can have good tendencies if it's within what they would need to get ahead. And as a person who has a little bit of greed and everything, it is not gratuitous for him to kill the party members. He's playing the hero more so he can get ahead, so he can make more money. But all in all, if he has to cut a throat or two to get what he wants, he will.
Yeah.
That's something I don't think that it's another peeve. Is everybody thinks, oh, we're evil, we have to be assholes. Like, you don't have to be. Evil does not mean asshole. That's another pet peeve. Is everybody thinks, oh, goody two shoes paladins have to be holier than thou. Just like, no, that's just an asshole. There's two sides to that. You can either be an asshole that uses everything in the name of a god, or you can be an asshole and just be self-centered. One's evil, one's good, but that's not all of the spectrums. One of the ones that my dad told me for a good example of like a lawful evil character is from the Harry Potter books, Professor Umbridge. She used the laws and rules in her favor to do evil acts. For the best scene for it is she used the rules against dealing with Death Eaters and the enemies of things to try and torture Harry. That is an example of lawful evil.
Yep.
And people look, they're like, that's not right. That's not right. There's like, then what's your definition? And most people are like, they don't have one. But it really brought that into perspective to me, because it's just like, what is an evil character? Most evil characters, they don't have to be an asshole. They're just, oh, we need to get information from this guy? Okay, time to torture. Technically, that's evil. It's all on the perspective of what laws and everything else are. If you really think about it, in today's world, why don't people, go on the wrong side of the road? Because they're afraid of it. technically that'd be breaking a law that would be evil. It'd be a chaotic evil act. To sit there's like, I just feel like driving on the other side of the road. Pretend we're in Britain. But that'd be an evil act.
Well, it'd be an unlawful act.
Well, chaotic. It would cause chaos.
Yeah, if it's not hurting anybody though, if there's nobody on the other side of the road.
It's just a neutral evil act, not a chaotic evil one. If they decide to do that, oh, it's rush hour, let's go on the other side of the traffic.
Though, of course, I don't know. I mean, this call comes down to GMing style. I don't know because I haven't really run. And that's my pet peeves. Like, I want to run a game, but I cannot get a group together.
That's just a common... I don't know if that's actually a pet peeve anymore for any tabletop gamers. It's the issue of it. Scheduling is the most difficult thing to do with any sort of gaming.
Still pisses me off.
Yeah, that's on my list is scheduling. Hey, when are we gonna play? Oh, when's everybody open? That is one I can solve as a dungeon master when I'm running the game, but that's not one I can do as a player. Because as someone running the game, I can say, here's when the game is. If you want to play, make yourself available.
See, that's a double-edged sword.
It is. But it only really works because I currently run my game online.
Fair enough.
When the pandemic, I used to run a table, and even then at home, I was like, this is when I have available, or this is when I'm going to make myself available. And I scheduled the game and I had players. And then when I switched to online, it was the same thing. People are looking for games. This is the time I'm setting aside for gaming. If you want to play, then this is the time. I can see that it would be more difficult to do that when you have a friend group that you want to play with, because then those are the people you want to play with, so you have to work around their schedules as well.
Yeah, that's why most of our games fell apart. Is the GM for the game ended up getting a job, and his days off are like Monday, Tuesday, but he works nights.
The time when everybody else would be free for gaming.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that there's like none of our schedules align to where we can all game.
Yeah. So it's a lot harder with friend groups than with strangers for scheduling.
But from the sounds of it, I'm going to be starting up a new game because it's a little... The only schedule that is on a time limit is mine, because I work early in the morning. But the day that we're choosing, everybody but me has the next day off. So it keeps me in check to keep everybody more on the timeline.
Yeah.
So, and it's also one of our shorter days, because with my job, you start early in the morning and you are done when you're done with your job.
Nice.
But busy season is starting now, so it's gonna start picking up to longer days, which I'm glad, because I get paid by the hour.
And busier can sometimes make the time go faster.
Yeah.
Depending on the job.
Our issue right now is we're still short-handed, so
you're working harder.
We have more to do. So, what are some of your other pet peeves? You said you had a list of them.
Oh yeah. Let's see. When you're in an in-person game at the table, players who are on their phones irritates me as both a DM and as a player when I'm playing at a table, because people are like watching videos, they're texting people.
See, the watching
TikTok,
videos, I can agree with.
They got to share a meme.
My thing with that is, okay, what are they doing on their phone? If they're doing some of those stuff, then yeah, I don't feel it. But for instance, if I'm on my phone, I'm either doing something that I can easily set down and set aside because I'm still paying attention to everything. But we're in the middle of combat. I'm playing a dumb fighter that I've done my 4 attacks, and it's the wizard's turn, who didn't spend any of the previous, between the end of his turn and the beginning of his next turn, figuring out, okay, what am I going to cast this time? He just sat there just watching. It's like, crap. Well, what spell should I cast? And that's a pet peeve of mine. Players who don't plan what they want to do.
Yeah, that leads right into another one, taking forever to decide what to do during your turn.
But if I'm playing a caster, I'm thinking, okay, this is how the battlefield is. Let me double check what this spell does, and I'll look up the spell.
Yeah, in between turns, or even if it's the person like right before you can get, they're doing something different, then they're going to be right in the way, aren't they? The
Yeah.
way I play casters is I generally
You-
know what all my spells do, and if the battlefield changes or whatever, I make my decision quick because my character doesn't have time to sort through the spells,
Yeah.
think long about what each one does. I have, I make a decision quick. It may not be the most optimal. It may get things cause trouble, but it's just
Shit,
like
there's
when
a
I'm
bunch of
when
enemies
I'm
that just spawned on us. Fireball.
yeah, when I'm playing a not I generally won't start with a fireball. I'd start with something smaller, like a cantrip, just to make sure I didn't waste it on something that was weak. But I make decisions quick as a player because in my head, my character is making decisions quickly.
Yeah, because to be fair, each round's only 6 seconds, so it's in the
Yeah.
middle of combat.
Yeah.
I never thought of some things like that, but
Yeah. And so when I'm DMing, I give players a little time to make decisions, but I also keep them moving, keep them moving, keep them moving. And then when I'm a player, fighters, I know what I'm doing. Warriors or whatever, spellcasters, I generally know what I'm doing. But if something changes and it totally throws off what I was planning 2 turns ago, or like at the end of my last turn, I'm like, okay, so my next turn I'm going to be doing this. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. And the whole thing changes because everybody else has their turn. I'm like, what am I going to do? Okay, first thing that pops into my head, that's what I'm doing.
yeah.
When I'm like, I don't listen to a lot of like actual plays, but I'm a casual fan of Critical Role. Like I'll watch it and then I won't watch it for months and then I'll binge it, and because I like the storytelling, I like the improv that they do and the getting into character, and like they have some people who are really really good at supporting the other players and letting the other players shine, and that is awesome.
Yeah.
But one of
I don't think I've
one of
ever actually listened to Critical Role.
my pet peeves is one of the players in particular can take a long time in battle during her turn, and during their second campaign there was a thing going on, and it was during the battle, and I'm like, she is really taking a long time. So when her turn was over, I went back and I rewound and I timed it. It was 4 minutes and 50 seconds
5 minutes for her one turn.
for her one turn, and you know what she did? She used her movement. She didn't even take an action.
I'm just gonna move.
That's what it ended up being. But she was hemming and hawing. She's talking with everybody and trying to like very
To be fair,
very
in
concerned
some of
about
those things,
not messing something up and doing the right thing. And it was a stressful battle.
for some of those, like I can get it because I pulled off a thing in one of my games, and we literally sat there laughing and talking about how ridiculous it was, but that I managed to pull it off, and we sat there for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can see doing that, and that's awesome. But she took about 5 minutes to basically do nothing, and a lot of it was like, what should I do? What's going to work best for your character? What can I do here? And it's as the middle of a battle. You've stretched less than 6 seconds out to almost 5 minutes and done nothing with it, like nothing productive with it. I'm like, oh my god, Laura, come on. But I overall I enjoy the show. That's just one of my things, taking forever to decide what to do during your turn in battle. Outside of battle, yeah, discuss things, plan things, do stuff. But in the heat of battle, I mean, come on, just make those decisions.
I think one of the ones that, upon you saying that, one that really gets me is if you really think about it. I'm gonna count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a round.
Yeah.
If you have five like party of 4 in one baddie, okay, that's a little fast. But if you really think about it, you have a party of 6 and you're fighting 12 different enemies, and everything happens in 6 seconds.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The rounds, the turn order is just a way to keep it organized.
But still, for 6 seconds, that's one of those things of wow.
The chaos of battle.
I I didn't really realize that until you mentioned the fact that she took a bunch of time. It's like, well, if you really think about it, it's like, is it really that? And then it just dawned on me, like 6 seconds. That just seems way too short for certain things.
Yeah, for some things, yeah. But if you think about how fast some people actually are at things, like I've seen, say a high level fighter making a bunch of arrow attacks. I've seen some skilled archers like just hurl arrows basically.
Yeah, I've seen live people do some of those where person in 10 seconds fired like 12 arrows.
Yeah,
and just like
some people are crazy fast, but then you have the level character. Okay, let me line up my shot and take it. There's your 6 seconds.
You didn't even take your shot; you just lined it up.
Yeah, but yeah, so
on your next turn, you're lined up, you're focused.
Yeah,
I think that would be an interesting mechanic,
or just a quick shot, which is why a D&D battle, for instance, you roll the dice and you got a good chance of missing, especially the lower level when you're not as skilled. That's you doing it in a hurry, is rolling that dice. You're not taking the time to line up your shot.
I'd say if you're going to take the time to, like a fighter in the midst of combat, just try to take a breath to recompose themselves, I'd say for the next attack, give them like an advantage or something.
Mm-hmm.
Make some real aspect, because there were swordsmen that in the midst of combat they would just focus solely on deflecting so much so they could recompose themselves, and then they'd unleash an absolute flurry of attacks.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm listening.
That helps.
Of course, I'm listening to these and thinking, how many of these do I fit?
To be fair, you're not. You make up your mind fairly quickly. The issue comes down to I've noticed sometimes with you is the fact of a huge monkey wrench shows up, like somebody casts like a pit and like, well, you were gonna charge, so now you're like, okay, what can I do now? Because like every possible plan just gets thrown out the window.
Yeah, so are you looking back
you don't
at your
get to
list
do
of
plan
options
A,
now?
B, C, or D. You're all the way on plan F.
Yeah, my hint there is just do the first thing that comes to mind. Don't think about how optimal it is. Just do it.
I'm just
with
too
certain characters. That is a terrible idea for me.
I'm just too
in battle.
No harm
In battle.
I'm just too scared of making a bad decision or a wrong one.
Which is fair to an extent, but at the same time, it can't. If it's something that your character would do, it could be understandable. It's why for certain characters, it's all right. If you're sitting here like the party's arguing, okay, do we run from the Minotaur? Do we jump in the cave? Do we fight the Minotaur? And one of the characters like, fuck this. Just walked up and shot the Minotaur with a pistol. Ended up critting it, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, they made a decision in what should be a limited time.
Yeah,
I was actually part of that game.
Oh yeah, you are. Forgot about that one. My issue is when characters, when they're warned, hey, are you sure you want to do this? It's a really dumb idea. And they're like, yeah, no. And they still do them. And then they complain when the shit happens. Like, are you sure you want to walk up and just attack the guard? Yeah. He looked at me funny. It's the town guard. The one that's standing right next to the guardhouse.
Where there's other guards.
In clear view of you. Are you sure you want to do this? Yeah, it'll be funny. He looked at me funny. I'm going to scare him. Okay.
Yeah, that's...
Well, you're now in prison.
Natural consequences.
What? That's no fun. I'm not having... Like, you punched a guard in the face for looking at you funny. You think you're not going to get arrested for that?
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just like... But at the same time, there are some characters that I could see certain characters, especially of my own, that they're arrogant enough that they're gonna step up to a guard like that. I have a barbarian that you look at him funny, he is more than happy to go toe to toe with you. But he also knows, okay, he's in over his head. But then I have characters that they're crazy enough that they don't care who's there. One of my favorite characters is a cleric of Zon-Kuthon, which I don't know how much you know about Pathfinder, but he is a evil masochist god, basically.
Okay.
Pain is love. Think that along the lines. This character is so in love with him that he's lost a few screws. And his god in the town that they were in was considered illegal. So he had to hide his holy symbol. He was basically a glorified fighter. He could do nothing of his with his deity. Well, close to the end of it, they got found out, and so they had to run away from the guards. And the first obstacle, goes, it's a chase scene, is they had to get through this crowd of people at the soup kitchen, basically. Basically, the church there was handing out food for the poor. And everybody, you know, intimidated to get through. And just like, wait a minute, they already know and are already trying to get us, correct? Yeah? Why? You said the enemy church is the one giving out the soup. Yeah? I'm assuming there's a head clergyman, right? Well, yeah, he's the one handing the soup and blessing people. I'm gonna go up to him, hold up my holy symbol, and scream, feel my deity's love and channel. Everybody, all the players are like, oh shit. Because it was like, and the DM just looks at me and just like, oh shit. And I channeled, thankfully, people were hardy enough because I didn't have, you know, a huge amount of channel dice. So I didn't actually kill anybody, but it caused some mass chaos because if you think about it, a group of people trying to fight for food because they're hungry, all of a sudden they get hit with negative energy. Or in D&D, it'd be necrotic energy.
I
just
remember
out
negative.
of nowhere.
Yep.
The amount of panic of that is just beautiful. I ended up burning through my entire channel pool during that thing because every situation there was a large group of people and we were told to get away, cause as much mass confusion as possible.
Sometimes when you fuck around, what you find out is that it really helps you.
It was one of those things that the next obstacle was like a parade. And they were just coach horses. They weren't war horses. They weren't properly trained. They were trained to pull a thing. That's it. Imagine what would happen if, you know, an entire parade worth of horses and stuff got hit with, you know, negative energy out of nowhere.
Oh, fuck.
We got out of town so fast that, because there was 6 stages. The first one was the soup kitchen. Second one was, but by the time we got out of town, they had just gotten past the parade. The GM said out of all of his times, he has never seen a party escape that quickly.
I could see that. Yep.
It was hilarious. I loved it. I loved that character. He's just a little bit crazy.
Yeah, sounds that way.
But, you know, sometimes having crazy characters like that is kind of what makes certain things fun.
Sometimes. Then there's the player whose idea of fun is just irritating the other players.
One of the game I'm gonna be running, one of the players, their last game, they had a rogue that was a kleptomaniac. However, they only liked stealing certain items. They stole every nail they could get. So they'd go to the inn and they had a hammer and they would like steal the nails within the floorboards or in the walls. Apparently their DM did not like their character. I thought it was a hilarious idea. Kleptomaniac that has a compulsion to steal nails.
That's an odd one.
It's an odd one, but it'd be funny as hell if you think about it. It'd be like, okay, so you have do you actually have a hammer to pull the nails out? Yep. What do you do with the nails? I just put them in my handy haversack. What?
But is that a player that has fun by irritating others?
I don't know, but that's one of those weird quirks that just like, why nails? Why would a rogue steal nails? Like, out of everything. I mean, I could understand it irritating some of the people. Like, hold on, I need to grab this nail. Like, if they did it every so often, then yeah, I could see it being an annoyance. But at the same time, it's an easy fix. Oh, there are no nails.
Yeah. I was in a group one time, and there was one player who would basically make sure his character was, anytime anybody else went off somewhere, he made sure his character went with, so that, you know, he could be there and he could interact with the NPCs or be part of every little scuffle, or basically if the group was planning a thing, he'd go off and do something that would mess up those plans before they could even start. And then eventually he got frustrated with the game because there started to be consequences for what his character was doing.
I had a
And
couple.
he
I've had
actually
players
switched
like that.
characters and, you know, had a character who was very like reclusive. He ended up switching to a turtle, and there was a point he just like went into his shell and refused to do anything. We're like, okay, well, he's going to be in danger there, so we're just going to pick him up and move him. And he's like, no, you can't do that. We're like, he's just in his shell. We're some strong characters. We can move him. And he got up and he left the game and he never came back. Well, I ran into him months later and he said, oh yeah, I said, I have fun, bothering other people. I'm like, that's why you weren't fun to game with.
One of the guests we've had a player that was part of their game. They had a shapeshifter druid thing or something that they could shapeshift at will. They walked into a very expensive china shop, literally turned into a bull, and ransacked the place, ran upstairs, turned into a cat, and took off, leaving all of us, his party members, with the bill.
Oh, sure, because he probably did it while everybody else was actually in the shop.
Well, some of us were, but because they saw a few of us together, all of us got hit with it.
Mm-hmm.
He thought it was funny. There's just one problem. He had to sleep. I was a rogue. He didn't wake up that night.
Mm.
He thought he could lock his door and he'd be safe. He forgot that I was a rogue because I was a gunslinger rogue. So I did more gunslinger things, but I still had rogue abilities. I just picked the door lock and went and shot him in his sleep.
And on that peeve, I think that should wrap up this episode.
Fair enough.
Okay, again, thank you, Amethyst Dragon, for coming on and sharing some peeves and some things that piss you off.
Yeah, you get that when you've played for a while.
I'm sure you have plenty of character stories, which is another one of our series, if you'd like to come back.
Sure.
And for you listening, if you also want to tell us something that pisses you off about gaming, you can, our DMs are open at Gamersperience on X, formerly known as Twitter.
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah. Or you can email it to us, Gamersperience, all lowercase, at gmail.com, as in Google's mail service. And we also have a Discord. And I should be a permanent invite link on my pinned tweet / post.
I was thinking about that. I think for our YouTube channel, because we have one of those too, we need to have a Discord link on there too, because there's a lot of people that don't have X, formerly known as Twitter.
I already do that.
All right. I just wanted to remind people of that one too.
Yes.
Even I forget we have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this on YouTube, check the description. It should also be a permanent link that should also work.
And if not, comment on the video and let us know.
Please. The, 1 or 2 people that actually watch this on YouTube?
We have views on YouTube?
Well, the thing is that Google is ending Google Podcasts and is moving that over to YouTube Music.
Ah.
So with that, again, thank you, Amethyst Dragon, for coming on. I'm Not Much 23.
And I'm ChoasAssassin.
And this was Gamer Experience.
And we invite you to have your own gamer experience as always.